Les Bourgeois de Calais is one of the most famous sculptures by Auguste Rodin, completed in 1889. It serves as a monument to an occurrence in 1347 during the Hundred Years' War, when Calais, an important French port on the English Channel, was under siege by the English for over a year. Calais commissioned Rodin to create the sculpture in 1884. History. England's Edward III, after a victory in the Battle of Crèvecoeur, laid siege to Calais, while Philip VI of France ordered the city to hold out at all costs. Philip failed to lift the siege, and starvation eventually forced the city to parley for surrender. According to medieval writer Jean Froissart, Edward offered to spare the people of the city if any 6 of its top leaders would surrender themselves to him, presumably to be executed. Edward demanded that they walk out wearing nooses around their necks, and carrying the keys to the city and castle. One of the wealthiest of the town leaders, Eustache de Saint-Pierre, volunteered first, and 5 other burghers joined with him. Saint-Pierre led this envoy of volunteers to the city gates. It was this moment, and this poignant mix of defeat, heroic self-sacrifice, and willingness to face imminent death that Rodin captured in his sculpture, scaled somewhat larger than life. Although the burghers expected to be executed, their lives were spared by the intervention of England's Queen, Philippa of Hainaut, who persuaded her husband to exercise mercy by claiming that their deaths would be a bad omen for her unborn child. Composition. The city of Calais had attempted to erect a statue of Eustache de Saint-Pierre, eldest of the burghers, since 1845. 2 prior artists were prevented from executing the sculpture. The first, David d'Angers, by his death, and the second, Auguste Clesinger, by the Franco-Prussian War. In 1884, the municipal corporation of the city invited several artists, Rodin amongst them, to submit proposals for the project. Rodin's design was controversial. The public had a lack of appreciation for it because it didn't have overtly heroic antique references which were considered integral to public sculpture. It was not a pyramidal arrangement and contained no allegorical figures. It was intended to be placed at ground level rather than on a pedestal. The burghers were not presented in a positive image of glory, instead, they display pain, anguish and fatalism. To Rodin, this was nevertheless heroic, the heroism of self-sacrifice. In 1895 a monument was installed in Calais on a large pedestal in front of a Parc Richelieu, a public park, contrary to the sculptor's wishes, who wanted contemporary townsfolk to almost bump into the figures and feel solidarity with them. Only later was his vision realized when the sculpture was moved in front of the newly completed town hall of Calais, where it now rests on a much lower base. Casts. Under French law, no more than 12 casts of works of Rodin may be made. The first cast of the group of 6 figures, cast in 1895, still stands in Calais. Other original casts stand at Glyptotheket in Copenhagen, cast 1903. The Royal Museum in Marymont, Belgium, cast 1905. Victoria Tower Gardens in the shadow of the Houses of Parliament in London, cast 1908, installed on this site in 1914 and unveiled on 19 July 1915. The inscription on the pedestal was carved by Eric Gill. The Rodin Museum in Philadelphia, cast 1925 and installed in 1929. The Gardens of the Musée Rodin in Paris, cast 1926 and given to the museum in 1955. Kunstmuseum in Basel, cast 1943 and installed in 1948. The Smithsonian Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden in Washington, D.C., cast 1943 and installed in 1966. The National Museum of Western Art in Tokyo, cast 1953 and installed in 1959. The Norton Simon Museum in Pasadena, California, cast 1968. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, cast 1985 and installed in 1989. Plateau in Seoul. This is the 12th and final cast in the edition, cast 1995. Sculptures of the individual figures from the monument are on the campus of Stanford University. The Man with the Key figure is on the Summerå Park in Oslo, Norway gallery.